Good afternoon and welcome to the fifth webinar of probonopublico hosted by Govilkar Associates LLP. Today we are having a very unique and different topic. I'm sure you all will enjoy the webinar and please keep us updated with your reviews about the webinar. To know about the key speaker today, let me introduce to our another speaker who will introduce you to the key speaker of the day. Welcoming Mr. Mihir Govilkar, partner of Govilkar Associates LLP. Over to you, Mr. Govilkar.
Thank you, Kinjal. Welcome, everyone, and good afternoon to everyone as well. Today, we are, like Kinjal said, on a different topic. Over the last three webinars, we focused on some law topics and we had some really interesting and really respected and knowledgeable speakers. Today, also, we have a very noted, respected, and knowledgeable speaker who will be guiding us on on a different aspect, not on the topic of law, but on how lawyers can keep themselves occupied and how they can keep learning. Because what has happened is in these times of change, it is really important that we keep on developing and we keep on learning. In a recent talk given by Justice Gautam Patel in the Bombay Bar Association on technology in law, he had talked about how technology can help the lawyers in improving themselves and their practice, and how that will help in giving a better service to the litigants. But in order to do this, there should be a mindset, a proper mindset for self development and self learning. So, to do exactly that, how do we do that? Because what happens is most of us are individual practitioners or we have small firms. Where there are large firms, they have a big setup. They have their HR teams, their learning department. So the HR team, the boss, they have a whole setup and a process in place. But for those individual practitioners or for those smaller law firms, when there are no such systems in place, how do we develop ourselves? How do we look at self development? How do we look at self learning? And in order to do that, today we have with us to understand this process, Mrs. Padmaja Korde. She has over 25 years of experience in human resources and corporate training. She has a postgraduate in management from NMIMS, and she has held several leadership roles in Philips, the Sanmar Group, Arvind Mafaltal Group, Crompton Greaves, across several functions. And over the last 6 years, she has also been consulting independently and has supported various MNCs and large Indian organizations. In her last role in the corporate world as an employee in Philips, she was based at the corporate HR department at Amsterdam, where she was director of global leadership development. During this role, she collaborated with some very well-renowned and respected business schools like the Wharton Business School, Oxford Said Business School, the Ashridge University, and Center for Creative Leadership. She is also a MBTI and Hogan facilitator. These two metrics or techniques identify different personality traits and how do we deal with them and how do we use those personality traits in developing ourselves. So I hope that this session will be both informative and knowledgeable and will help you in developing your own self in the process of self-learning. Because as we always say, we practice law and we are students of law. So I hope that this practice and this education continues. Mrs. Korde, welcome to the fifth webinar of probonopublico. I invite you to take us through the journey of self-learning and how do we go about it.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mihir, for the lovely introduction, for your very kind words. I am honored, privileged to be on this webinar, talking to professionals, lawyers about learning. And I am passionate about learning. I'm a learning enthusiast, you can say, having led the learning function in various organizations. And I believe that if we can make learning as a key part of who we are, magic can happen. Magic can happen for individuals. Magic can happen for organizations. So I'll get started with my presentation, and I'm requesting Kinjal to please put up the first slide. Okay, so good lawyers keep learning. Good lawyers keep learning how to develop a continuous learning mindset. In this webinar, I'm going to largely talk about the mindset. And what's a mindset? Is typically, how do you think? What's your approach? What are some of your beliefs around learning? Do we believe that when we think learning, we think classroom? Abhi school to ho gaya, college ho gaya, abhi now it's the time to work. Learning is over. Or do we believe that learning is something which is lifelong? So I'm going to talk about mindset. What are our beliefs? What is our thinking about learning? And yes, if the mindset is appropriate, behaviors will come, actions will come, approaches will come. And the next slide, I just wanted to start with a quote that I read from the book Before Memory Fades, autobiography of Fali S. Nariman. And I thought this line really caught my eye. He says at 80 plus, it is better to sit in the court and listen and learn. So even at 80 plus, learning is something that is paramount to a lawyer who is like an icon to all of us. So I could not start my session than a better quote than this. Go on to the next slide. I'm going to just tell you how I'm going to structure my webinar today. So I will talk about why learning is so relevant today, a little bit about that. How do people learn? Different people learn differently. So we'll talk about that. Some washouts, because I have been in the learning field for so long. And today I am a professional myself, independent professional. So some washouts, some tips, some pointers. And I'll tell you, to get started, how do we really get started? So we'll talk about that. Let me talk about why learning is so relevant today. So go on to the next slide, Kinjal. I'm going to talk about this word called VUCA. VUCA is volatile, V is for volatile, U is for uncertain, C is for complex, and A is for ambiguous. We say it's a VUCA world. I heard this word VUCA almost about 10 years ago. And today at 12 o'clock, all of us professionals are sitting and doing a session like this. Why? Because we are in times of an unprecedented kind of a situation, right? What we call is a once in 100-year situation, locked down for weeks together. It couldn't get more volatile. We don't know what tomorrow's newspaper is going to bring. It couldn't get more uncertain. We don't know that when we go back to work, what kind of work we will go back to. What will the new normal look like? It's very complex at an individual level, at a society level, at an environmental level, at a legal level, every level. It's very complex and it's really ambiguous. So we are in the VUCA world. And let me talk about what is VUCA. So VUCA is typically when change is happening, change is hitting us really hard. Let me talk about myself. I am a facilitator, and around mid-March, I had my calendar full of programs, of sessions where I would have groups of people together, and I would lead programs, I would lead coaching programs. And come around 10th or 12th of March, suddenly all my programs got cancelled because nobody wants to get people together, all training cancelled. Okay, that's a huge change, unexpected. A few weeks after that, clients came back to me and said, can we move your training and your facilitation and your coaching virtual? So which means that I have to learn technology. I have to actually break up 3-day programs into small modules of 2 hours each. Oh, what a change it was for me, even as an HR professional. So I'm asking all of you as lawyers, the lawyers fraternity, what's going to change for you? I read a report by McKinsey, which says that 22% of a lawyer's work, 22% of a lawyer's work will be taken over by technology in the next few years. You know, we talked about, I believe there's a book called Online Courts or Virtual Courtrooms. And maybe some time ago it looked like, oh, it's like fantasy, it's not going to happen. But any big change, for instance, the COVID, is going to accelerate things very fast. So what looks like very remote and not so likely could become a reality really soon. Let me ask you about some words like, you know, blockchain. Do you know what is blockchain? You'll be like, हाँ word तो सुना है लेकिन मैं तो lawyer हूँ, मेरे को क्या लेना देना blockchain से. But do you know, just Google law and blockchain and you will find that there is a huge amount of transformation that's going to happen in the legal world because of blockchain technology, right? Big data, big data is something that large organizations talk about. IT organizations talk about. Big data analytics is going to hit the legal world. There was some time ago I would have said, oh, HR, people can't do without HR. But nowadays we have what is called as bots, HR bots. So employees are calling up HR department and they believe they're talking to somebody in the HR team, but no, they're talking to a robot out there. And I even heard a word called legal bots. So technology is going to sweep. The new normal is going to be very different. And as we say, when change is the only constant, continuous learning is the only answer. In the VUCA world, what can help us, all of us, is our ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Please remember, unlearning is a very important part of learning because you have to let go of something that we did in the past to embrace something new, right? So this is a world, continuous learning is about learning, unlearning, and relearning. So how can we really build our capability? How to learn? Learning how to learn. If we learn that, half our problems are solved and we are like an edge above everybody else. Yeah. So let's go to the next slide. And I wanted to talk about the difference between training and learning, because a lot of times we use these words like I went for a training program and went for a learning program. Let me just differentiate here. Training is an event. There's a start, there's an end. You go in, you come out. Whereas learning is continuous. It's lifelong. Fali as Nariman at 80 plus says, at 80 plus, all I can do is go to the court and sit and learn. So learning is continuous. It is infinite. Training is a part of learning. So when you are on a lifelong learning journey, you will attend training programs. So training programs are a part of learning, but learning is something much bigger, right? So learning is continuous. Can we go to the next slide? I read this book called Nani Palkiwala, The Courtroom Genius by Soli Sorabji and Arvind Datar. And it was amazing. They talked about some of the qualities that Nani Palkiwala had that made him the legend that he was. And one of the things that I picked up was Nani Palkiwala was constantly finding ways to improve the methods of his working. He believed in the need for continuous self-improvement, right? So here is Nani Palkiwala, the great, who never believed that he had arrived. Never believed I know it all and what is more there to learn for me, but who continuously was trying to improve himself. So if this was where Nani Palkiwala was, let's go to the next slide. And I want all of you to reflect. Some self-assessment. Where are you today? Where are you today when it comes to a learning mindset? I'm not asking where are you, what kind of programs you have done, tell me how many hours you've spent in learning. That's not the question. The question is, where are you on learning mindset? Low or high? And let me explain to you what low and high looks like. What's low? People on the left-hand side, low self-awareness. So they really don't know what their strengths are. They don't know what their weaknesses are. They are not really self-aware. They don't know that, when it comes to maybe time management, they're really not doing a good job. So on their strengths and weaknesses, they really don't know. Second, always busy, constantly running around. Yeah. Oh, I have to reach here, I have to reach here, I have to reach here. And in the whole day has gone by and nothing is really learned. So constantly busy, full of activities. And activity is good, but we need activity plus learning. Not seeking feedback and new experiences. So people who have a low, who are really not, don't have a high learning mindset, these are the people who will not proactively go out and seek feedback. I made that presentation, I went to court and I did this. How did I do you think I did a good job? Or when I was talking to the client, asking a senior, give me some feedback, how did I do, what can I do differently? So they're not really doing that. And they are not seeking out new experiences. So when something new opportunity is coming, they are not the ones who are jumping in. They are staying in the sidelines. The next one is a real mindset and belief thing. Don't believe people change. अरे मैं तो ऐसा ही हूँ, मेरे से ये होता नहीं है. Now, that is what is called as a fixed mindset. If you are somebody who believes this is what I am, and this is what I'm going to be all my life, you're pretty much low on the learning agility. And the last one, awaiting direction, awaiting somebody to tell you. So in organizations, I've spent my life in the corporate world, 20 years in the corporate world. So people on the low learning mindset are the people who will say, मेरे बॉस ने बोला तो मैं करूंगा, मेरे को एचआर ने नॉमिनेट किया तो मैं करूंगा, नहीं तो मैं क्यों करूं? So you're constantly waiting for direction from somebody else to tell you, do this program. So these are people on the left hand side. Let's look at people on the high. They are extremely self-aware. They know what they're good at and they know what they need to improve on an ongoing basis. Remember, self-awareness is not a one-time exercise. Every day is a new day. Every day, some new strengths emerge, some new development areas also emerge. They make learning a priority. So while running around is important, even in that, they make learning a priority. How would they do that? For instance, they would proactively seek feedback, like I said. So I've had some of my deputies who constantly are saying, give me feedback. Tell me what I did, what I could do differently, what I could do better here. Every time there's a new opportunity, they will jump in, raise their hand and say, can I just jump in? I don't know how, but I want to learn. They take ownership of their own learning, embrace change. I'm again going to quote the great Nani Palkiwala here. When I read the book, I came to know that he had a stammering problem. And when he was in school, he could not even complete a sentence. Yeah. The same Nani Palkiwala used to stand in a cricket stadium and speak extempore to 1 lakh people after the budget. So, how did that happen? It happened because he was in the high learning agility, self-aware. These are my strengths, and this is what I need to improve. And do you know how he did that? When he was in school and college, he used to keep on participating in debates and, competitions, right? And elocution competitions. Why? Because he wanted to get better and better and better. So here is somebody who actually said, okay, this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it. Who made learning into a growth mindset. So like I said, a fixed mindset, left hand side, this is what I am. I can't get better than this. I can't speak fluently. I don't have a good voice. I can't manage my time. I can't influence difficult people. And here is somebody who says, on the high side says, I can't do it today, but I jolly well can learn. I jolly well can make it into a strength. And I just gave you an example of the great Nani Palkiwala, who as a student could not complete one sentence. It was a bad stammering problem he had. He overcame that to be this amazing, mesmerizing orator. So there is inspiration story for all of us here. And I want to just spend a little time about mindset. There is a fixed mindset and there is a growth mindset. So fixed mindset, I have told you, this is it, this is who I am, and this is what I can do. A growth mindset says, so what if I failed? I can do it better the next time. I can do it better the next time. I can do it better the next time. The question to all of you is, where are you from 0 to 10? What is your self-rating? Where are you on learning agility? I'm going to stop for exactly 20 seconds. Think about it. Reflect. Be honest. Where are you today? And if this is where you are, where do you want to be? What's your dream? What's your ambition? Yeah? Okay. Because in the learning journey, reflection is key. Okay. So being reflective and being brutally honest to yourself are some of the key ingredients to really move fast on the learning journey. Yeah. Let's move to the next slide, Kinjal. Yeah. Learning actually takes place in different ways, because a lot of times when you say learning, people think, oh, classroom, books, teacher. That's one part of learning, but actually learning takes place in different ways. And I'm going to take you through a research done by an organization. We can go to the next slide. An organization called the Center for Creative Leadership. This is a global organization in the top 10 of global executive education in the world. They did a research sometime in the 80s, and they looked at how does learning really happen. And they came up with what is called as the 70-20-10 learning model. So what does it mean? It means that 70% of what we learn, all of us, 70% of what we learn takes place on the job, right? In our real life, in real life moments. Can you go back? Yeah. So 70% happens on the job. 20% of what we learn from others, right? So mentoring, coaching, listening, conversations, sharing. 20% of what we learn is from others. And the others could be bosses, it could be colleagues, it could be friends, it could be relatives, it could be anybody. And the last 10% of our learning comes from classroom, what we call as formal learning. So they came up with a 70-20-10 model. So let's go to the next slide. I'm going to dive into each one of these. Let's look at our 70% learning. 70% learning happens on the job. Every day is an opportunity to learn. Adapting new methods, adapting new ways. I heard an interview of Harish Sarve. It was also on YouTube. And he was saying, he was asked about the use of technology for a lawyer. And he said that in the Vodafone case, 3 years of Vodafone case that he was busy with, he said, I don't have a piece of paper. No scrap of paper. Everything was digital. All my notes, all my organizing, all my references, everything was on my iPad. So every case, everything that you do is offering you opportunities to do something new, adapting new methods and new ways. And believe me, everything can be learned. So I'm going to refer to the great Nani Palkhiwala once again. So in that book, The Courtroom Genius by Soli Sorabji and in the book by Soli Sorabji and Arvind Datar, they actually recounted some of the qualities that really made him great. And one of the things that they recounted was his speed reading, that he could, in a jiffy, just read the entire page and just get the gist of what was going on. Because as a lawyer, there's just so much of information out there, right? There's just so much information that you have to read, you have to refer, and there's an overwhelm of information. Now, if you can pick up speed reading as a quality, imagine where it can take you. And in that book, it is said that Nani Palkhiwala believed that speed reading could be mastered. The other thing that, set him apart was his focus. So many things were going on, but he could, in the moment, focus on exactly what was required. Focus, concentration, speed reading. And it says All three can be acquired. All three can be mastered by practice, practice, practice. And where do you practice? Do you practice in the classroom? No, you practice it in your day life, in the court, in your office, when you're conversing. So can we actually make it a part of our life? And it is called as informal learning. Why informal learning? Because there is no start, there is no finish. There is no curriculum कि ये सीखना है, ऐसे कुछ नहीं है. It's just infinite. It's for you to grab what you want to pick up. Why it's informal? Because there is no teacher who is taking you, अच्छा अभी ये chapter पढ़ेंगे, अभी ये exam होगा. There's no exam, there's no teacher, right? There is no curriculum. It's informal. So therefore it's informal learning. And 70% is informal. So can we imbibe that? Can we take every new conversation, every new day as a learning opportunity? Can I do something different here? Yeah. Okay, let's move to the next slide, where 20% of the learning is social learning. Social learning is learning from others. And well, all the greats that I read about, whether it's Fali Narimana, whether Nani Palkiwala, or even Harish Alve, all of them talked about learning from seniors, conversations, discussions. You know, just observing them performing in court, and that's it. Just observing people performing in court can be a huge learning, but it has to be from a learning mindset, right? It's not the action of sitting and observing. With what mindset are you sitting there? Are you there to really imbibe something and say, oh, this is interesting, can I also do that? Or, you know what, I struggle with that. How can I actually build that? Discussions, sharing, conversations. Let me ask all of you a question. How many of you have a mentor? How many of you have a mentor? Somebody that you actually go to who can challenge you, who can inspire you, who can nudge you, and who can say, you know what, do this different. Or you know what, you really failed here, you need to do something different. It's important for all of us to have a mentor or to have a coach. So in my practice, so as Mihir introduced me, I'm also a coach. I'm a trained coach. And in my firm, some of my colleagues even have lawyers as coaches. Yeah. So I know nothing about law, or my colleague knows nothing about law, but he's still coaching a lawyer. Why? Just helping reflect, asking questions, challenging questions about themselves. How many of you are part of networks? In the day of social media, being a part of communities is not difficult. Now, all of us are on WhatsApp groups. बहुत सारे joke forward करते हैं, बहुत सारा time pass करते हैं. Let me ask you, how many of you, out of all the groups that you are part of, you can say, you know what, these are meaningful communities. These are communities of learning. Please be part of them. And there is no dearth of that. Let me ask you another question. How many of you are on LinkedIn? LinkedIn is a professional networking platform. Yeah, so we are all on Facebook. I did this, I did that. Spend time on LinkedIn. And how many of you, can I ask, if you're on LinkedIn, are your profiles updated? How big is your connections? I would say you should have a connections of at least 500 plus. There are people who are in my LinkedIn network whom I actually have in my mind, I have tagged them. These are the people who are constantly reading new things, looking at new research and sharing it on LinkedIn. So I follow them. I follow some influencers, what they call, who are actually thinkers. They're thinking ahead. They're thinking about the future. I follow them. In today's day and age, to be part of communities and networks is very easy. It doesn't take any time. On your app, you have a LinkedIn app. Please do that. And ask yourself tough questions. How much time pass do I do on WhatsApp? Against that, how many of them actually help me to learn and grow? Yeah, time pass is important, but this is important as well. So 20% of our learning comes from social learning. How are we really using this? Okay, so let's go to the next one, which is the formal learning. Now, formal learning typically has a curriculum. So it has a start, it has a finish, there's a teacher, there's an exam, and 10% of all our learning happens actually through formal. So the learning typically more or less ends in school or in college. And then we get into the real life. Believe me, there's also a place for formal learning in our professional life. How many of you have actually taken courses in the last 2 years? Formal learning courses. Today, in order to do a Harvard course, you don't have to go to Harvard. Harvard has let out their entire catalog free of cost on the net. In order to go to an Ivy League college and to do a course from the Ivy League university professor, you don't need to go there. You don't need to fly there. You don't need to, put a lot of money. It's available free of cost. Remember this word called MOOCs, massive open online courses. It's an ocean out there. There's Coursera, there is Udemy, there's Harvard. I mean, you name it. Go and find courses. Do interesting courses. Post them on LinkedIn. Hey, I completed this course. I completed that course. LinkedIn itself offers lots of courses. Complete those courses. It's a world out there. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So one of my program participants during lockdown, she actually did a program called Elevator Pitch. How to give a 2-minute elevator pitch. So it's like having a crisp 2-minute conversation with the CEO of your company. You get inside the lift with the CEO and you go from ground floor up to whatever, 10th floor, 15th floor with the CEO. And the CEO says, so what's going on? Or you went for this program, tell me what happened. And you have exactly 2 minutes in a crisp manner to tell the CEO what you did. And this is called as an elevator pitch. Being able to give elevator pitch is considered as a skill. So there are programs offering that. So this friend of mine went through this program, online course, and she learned it and she got a certificate. I saw her certificate on LinkedIn. She had posted it and I said, this is great. And we talked about it. I said, tell me what you learned and tell me what you learned and give me some tips around how that happened. So how many of you have done that in the lockdown of the last 6 or 7 weeks? Have you gone into any of the courses? If not, do it. Yeah, there's a world waiting for you out there. So these are and people learn differently. Pick out what is your way of learning. Do you learn sitting in front of the laptop? Do you learn in conversations? Or do you just learn on the job? Or it's a mix. Just find out for yourself and go for it. Let's go to the next slide. I actually picked up this thing about legal education, and a lot of it said that a lot of it is law, of course, which is a knowledge part, but no law course actually teaches us advocacy skills, right? And that's key. What is advocacy? Being able to persuade. And not many lawyers actually learn influencing skills, listening skills, persuasive skills. Advocacy skills, again, can be mastered. It is not something that you are born with. You can learn it. It can be mastered. So I would say, as a lawyer, of course, you will want to work on law, which is the knowledge piece, but the skill piece is equally or even more important. So yeah, it can be learned. So actually ask some of your seniors, you see me in court on advocacy skills, where do you rate me on a scale of 1 to 10? Be prepared for some tough answers. And that's a wonderful start of your journey, because then you know where you are. Remember self-awareness and where you can be. So advocacy skills is something that can be picked up. So that's something that I put here. And the third bucket is that of personal effectiveness. Personal effectiveness has things like time management. How do you manage your time? It has things like, how do you really strategize? Do you have a strategy? Again, in Nani Palkiwala, the book, The Courtroom Genius, one of them go out and sell. What we have is knowledge and skills. So let's keep developing that. So there is law, which is the knowledge part. And on the skills part, you have advocacy, which is a huge one. And you have personal effectiveness skills. So there is time management. There is, there's speed reading, like I said. There is focus. There is concentration. There is, looking at other things, because law is about the depth. It's also about the breadth. It's also about understanding the world out there. Social, political, economic. Do you know that? Because you have to blend all that into what you do. In fact, not only lawyers, all of us have to do that. So how well-read are you on other matters? And Mihir also mentioned about it, technology. How much time do you spend on technology? Do you read about technology? Find out what is blockchain. Find out what is analytics, what's big data. And if 22% of lawyers' work, job, McKinsey study says, can be taken over by automation and will be taken over by automation over the years, what do you know about automation? And how can you build your skills around that to just make you more and more effective? Because if 22% of a lawyer's work can be taken by technology, the good news is that 22% of the work is actually the organizing, the scanning, the finding, the storing, things like that. And now you have time for other things. So getting on top of that. So I would say law, keeping constantly knowing, and that all of you do, focusing also on the soft skills of advocacy and personal effectiveness. Yeah, so let's go to the next slide. Some watch outs. Some watch outs. So I've been a learning professional for a long time. So I have been in corporates. I've also been now, I'm now independent professional. So let me share some of my experiences. Yeah. So what I hear people say. So let's go to the next first one. First watch out. Where is the time? My daily schedule is so hectic. It's an excuse. It's an excuse. If the big grades have the time, we surely have the time. And again, it's again a mindset. So if we have worked on our mindset, we will find the time, right? So nowadays, knowledge is available on our mobiles, right? Small little pocket goes with us everywhere. Can we just go and read something? Can we just see what somebody senior has posted? There are just so many ways. I'm not going to get into a lot of ways, but believe me, this is a mindset. Time is not an issue. Mindset is the issue. So if you're in your mind saying, how much karna hai, time nahi hai, I'm going to say, don't worry about time. Think about your mindset. Think about that line, right, which went from low to high. If you are thinking time nahi hai, you are on the low side and you have to move on the high side. So make the time. Let me talk about the next one. Looking for immediate rewards. अरे मैंने ये training program किया तो तुरंत क्या होगा? Will I get more clients? Will I do this? Will I win more cases? It doesn't happen like that. Whatever you learn has to be imbibed. You have to apply it. And believe me, application can be difficult and it needs perseverance. You may fail. You get up again. You fail. You get up again. How can you keep on till you start to see results? And when the results come, believe me, the rewards will come. But one has to be patient. A learning mindset, again, is about patience and saying, if is there a direct correlation? I learned this, I get this, it is not going to happen. It's going to take effort, it's going to take time. The third one, which I hear all the time, I'm doing so well. I really don't need this right now. Abhi zarurat nahi hai, baad mein dekhenge. Oh my God, but baad mein could be too late. So learning is for the present and learning is for the future. Please remember, when you make your learning goals, and I'm going to implore all of you, make your learning goals. Make your learning goals. Some of them should be for the present to get better today, and some should be for the future. Some should be for strategy. And then you're really going to be up and running. And then you'll be like that class apart. Let's look at the next watch out or the next pitfall. Not putting learning into practice. So I've had some friends, I've had some colleagues constantly shopping, right? Constantly looking for degrees, ye degree lo, wo seekho, which is great. But remember, just getting a degree, getting a certificate is just the starting point. After that, you will start walking and we will run. So you have to learn something and put it into practice. Find ways to put into practice. So I know there are people who go through a training program and then they don't put into practice. And after 2 years, they've even forgotten what they've learned. And it's like, it's of no use. Why did I do that? I didn't put into practice. Believe me, here are where your mentors and your coaches and your seniors can help you. Just say, I've learned this. Where can I apply it? Where can I actually put it to use? It could be that you don't have a job or maybe a case that you can put it into use. Go find, do something in your children's school, volunteer with an NGO. So there are some people I know who did a course in digital marketing. Okay, so digital marketing is big, right? So very exciting, let me do it. And then they came back to their work and they're like, in my work, how can I apply digital marketing? It doesn't play a role. So I remember, because I had one coachee like that, and I said, go to your children's school, go to the principal and say, do you need any help in digital marketing? I can help you there. Go to an NGO, because NGO need to get a lot of funds. They need to talk to people. Can you help there? It could be pro bono. So a lot of the new learning that you put in place, initially, you could find other playgrounds to put it into use. So do that actively. Take the help of mentors, take the help of seniors who will actually tell you, okay, here's an opportunity, go apply it and grab that and do it. If not, it will just be you have a bag and there are a lot of degrees in there, formal learning, and nothing is really coming out of it. So yeah, so not putting learning into practice could be a watch out. Beware of that and talk to people who will help you to find ways to apply your learning. Let's go to the next one, Kinjal. Yeah, and this is a big one. And I will be honest, I've also fallen in trap of losing steam and giving up midway. So I do this course, I start this course with a lot of excitement. And then I'm like, okay, I missed one class, I missed the second class, and before you know, I'm out. Catch yourself doing that. Let me give you a small tip as to how I have helped myself to ensure that I don't lose. I keep in touch with my batchmates. Some of us who are doing that course or that learning journey together. We actually, either the entire group or a small of us, we form a group, and we constantly keep on talking to each other. And अच्छा तूने ये किया, अच्छा मैं भी कर सकती हूँ, and we keep nudging, helping each other around this. And my learning for myself is that whenever I have done this, I have kept in touch with my batchmates, course mates, that learning has worked. I have ensured that I have lived that learning, because as a group, we nudge each other, we support each other, we share stories, we give examples. So if you have done a course, find the alumni, talk to each other, saying, have you put anything in practice? Can you share? Can we have a small chat around it? Do that. That can be a great way to ensure that you're not losing steam and giving up midway. So use some of your mentors, use some of your batchmates, course mates to actually nudge you along, and to ensure that whatever steam that you have, is going away, you are picking it up and rolling once again, and also being an inspiration to others as you do that. So here are some of the watch outs. I think all of us, I have myself gone through some of them, and I will say the important thing is you might experience one of this. If you are on the high learning agility, you will catch yourself. And you will have a path of recovery, and then you move along on the high side of learning. Let me go to the next slide, which is really getting started. How do you get started? The biggest one: seek feedback. Feedback is extremely powerful. And Mihir mentioned that I've done a couple of psychometric certifications, Hogan's, MBTI. These are some of the global, the tools which are used globally. Yeah, you can use that. We have had in our consulting company, we've had a few lawyers as our clients, and we have done psychometric assessments for them to find out what are their strengths, what are some of the development areas. Just talk to people. In organizations, we do a 360. So 360 is ask people all around you. Ask your seniors, ask your peers, ask your subordinates, ask your family, ask your friends. What are my strengths? What are my gifts? What can I do differently? Start with feedback. Secondly, understand your own approach of learning. How do you learn? Are you somebody who would sit in front of a laptop for 1 hour and do a course? Go ahead, join a course, Coursera, whatever. If that's not your way, don't do it. Or only do a 1 hour per week kind of a course. So I know a lot of people, they find, hey, sab log kar rahe hain, I should also go enroll. Don't do that. Be honest to yourself. How do you learn? Do you learn by conversations? Do you just learn on the job? Or do you like actually reading, going to classes, doing online learning? Pick up your way of learning and ensure that you're spreading your learning in ways that are energizing you, giving you energy, right? Giving you meaning, giving you purpose. Third is set your learning goals every year for the present and future. In the organization that I work with, a consulting organization, all of us are freelance professionals. We're all independent professionals. We are just a network. Every year, we come together in our annual retreat. We talk about what went well, what could be better, those kind of discussions, right? So, SWOT, strength, weakness, opportunity, threat kind of discussions. And each one of us has to stand and declare my learning goals for the year. What am I going to learn next year? Some of it could be courses. Some could be, I'm going to find a mentor and coach and help me with this behavior. I'm not a good listener. I'm going to take some coaching and mentoring to help me move to be a good listener. I don't manage my time well. I'm too unstructured. I'm scared of technology. Okay, so I'm going to do a course. I'm going to take a mentor. So we actually stand up there and make a declaration and make a commitment to ourselves saying, I'm going to follow, I'm going to do, these are my learning goals for the year. And end of the year, we actually come and say, this is what I said, and this is what I did. And we hold each other accountable in this journey. So do that. Do that in your small groups. Do that at home and say, for the next year, these are my learning goals. Right? That's very powerful. I do it, and I found it extremely meaningful. Share your learning with peers and mentors. So whatever you've learned, you tried something new. You try to say, I'm going to be Harish Salve. I'm going to have a piece of paper. I'm going to put everything on my iPad, on my laptop. And God, it didn't work. Share it. Share it. There's huge power in sharing what you're going through. Sharing successes, sharing failures, sharing experiments. You can get a lot out of it. So do that. Journal. It says that people who are effective reflect and journal. They write down. So I had a friend who told me once that every night before she goes to sleep, she actually relives the entire day from the time she got up to that moment, and she says, this is what I did, this is what I spoke, this is what I read, and she actually relives every moment to say, what did I do well, what could I do better, what should I do differently tomorrow? And I found that such a powerful way, simple way. 10 minutes before going to bed, just calmly think through the entire day and say, okay, I think I hurt this person. Maybe I go and apologize. Or maybe I spend too much time here. Tomorrow I'm not going to do that. Small ways. That's learning on the job. That's your informal learning. Use reflection. And last one, build a network. Stay, and I don't mean WhatsApp networks of forwarding jokes. I mean meaningful networks which helps you meet your purpose. Stay active. Don't be passive. Keep on sharing, because the more you share, the more you learn. If you are in a network, keep sharing something new, share your learning, share your feedback, and that's how it becomes a vibrant community. So these are some of the ways that you can all get started. Let me go to the next slide, which is the 5-hour rule. Okay, so this is I read an interesting article about Benjamin Franklin. So Benjamin Franklin was this great thinker, entrepreneur from the US, and he was a school dropout. He actually left school at 10 years, and imagine he became this huge personality, this huge thinker of the US. He had a 5-hour rule, and it's called as the Franklin 5-hour rules. So he said 5 hours in a week I spend on learning. And there's research that all the great people actually spend 5 hours, 4 to 5 to 6 hours for themselves, just for their learning. And how do they spend these 5 hours? Reading, could reflect, share, experiment. But make it conscious. Make it conscious. You want to start small. Start with 30 minutes. Start with 15 minutes. But do that. Yeah. So there's a book called Atomic Habits, right? That you can't make big changes. So today I'm 0. I can't go to 5 hours. Start with 1 hour. Start with every day before sleeping 10 minutes. And the atomic habit will slowly become bigger and bigger and bigger. But do that, you owe it. All of us owe it to ourselves to invest time in our own selves. Yeah. Go to the next slide. Yeah, so here is my question as I end my webinar. Having heard me, what is that one specific action you are committing to yourself? Learning, you're not learning for anybody else out there. Those days are over where you got a certificate and showed it to somebody. This is self-learning. It's a commitment to yourself as a professional. What is that one commitment that you make to yourself today to become a better professional? A moment I give all of you to think and reflect for yourself. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to stop, and I will be very happy to answer any questions. So I think we have about 8 minutes to go. It's 12:52. So I'll be happy to take a few questions and answer any questions that you might have. So Mihir, over to you. If there are any questions from our viewers, from our listeners, very happy to talk about them.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Korde, for this wonderful session. Actually, the first question I have, it came to my mind while you were speaking. While in the course, we were talking about and speaking to younger lawyers on how they could get feedback from their seniors. What about the seniors themselves? There are people who are considered to be at the pinnacle of the profession, and people look up to them for learning from them. For example, Mr. Nani Palkhiwala, Mr. Fali Nariman, legends in their own rights. But still, they kept on learning.
Yeah.
So, how do these people keep a learning mindset?
Yeah.
When they
So
are
like I said,
who do they learn from? What kind of targets can they keep? People who have spent maybe 30, 40 years in the profession, it's difficult for them suddenly to accept that they may need to learn something new. For example, the technology of blockchain,
yeah,
big data,
yeah,
these technologies are so
yeah,
new. Now, for example, cryptocurrency.
yeah,
Cryptocurrency and blockchain go hand in hand together.
yeah,
Without understanding those aspects,
yeah,
it would be impossible
yeah,
for anybody to actually comprehend what they are. And then if some big case comes to them, if they do not know these and understand these technologies, it would be difficult for them to argue. So what would be your advice to these seniors on how they can keep learning?
Okay. So I have a very interesting initiative that many corporates follow for seniors, right? So everybody has to keep on learning, whether you're a CEO or you're a seasoned lawyer or you're a young lawyer. So for a lot of the seniors, a very interesting initiative is called reverse mentoring. Yeah. What is reverse mentoring? Is that you actually give, typically in mentoring, we say somebody has to be very senior who has to help a junior. In reverse mentoring, is the other way around. So you actually assign a very senior person, a junior person as a mentor. And what will that youngster talk about? That young person will talk about communities. That young person will talk about technology, will talk about new ways of working. So you can actually, I've actually implemented reverse mentoring. It is again a mindset. अरे ये बच्चा मेरे को क्या सिखाएगा? Believe me, बहुत कुछ सिखा सकता है. Yeah, I learned so much from my daughter. My daughter is my my parents. My father is 84, my mother is 80. They learn so much from her. कुछ WhatsApp का होगा तो they go and sit with her. जरा समझा मैं हमको कैसे करना है, ये कैसे forward करना है, ये कैसे save करना है. Things like that. Reverse mentoring is powerful. It's powerful. It's again a mindset. You can learn from everybody. Can we actually deploy that? Yeah. The second way to actually do that is to read a lot of research, international research, because they move faster, right? Move faster than us in terms of adapting new things, adapting new changes. So going for conferences, going for international conferences to learn, and you come back from international conference and you'll be like, oh my God, I have so much to learn. You know, I have just so much to catch up on. So it's the two things that I can think of for senior people. So one is reverse mentoring, and to actually go for conferences, international conferences where they will really see global best practices at play. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that answer. We have a advocate with us watching us right now, and he has posted a question. I'll just put it up on screen.
Yeah.
Advocate Siddiqui says, "Thank you for leading us to ways of learning law. It is a dynamic concept with learning inherent in it. But I'm afraid if corporate techniques of HR, etc., could be put into practice in fields of law here. So, in general, I have observed that every industry feels that they are very different. I have been in the past, I have been in the hospitality industry, I have worked in the finance industry, now I'm in the legal profession. What I have observed is every industry feels that they are very different and the problems are
Yeah.
very specific to them. And I
Yeah.
completely agree with them. The problems can't really be general in every single aspect. There are some general issues and some general problems, but they can't be general in every aspect. But then, what I would like to understand from you is, like I had said in my introduction, there are large law firms which have a proper system in place of training, whereas for individual practitioners and smaller firms, where they might feel that, okay, this is possible in a corporate setup or in large law firms, going for training sessions and these kind of things. What do we do? How do we learn? So for that, I guess you had answered this aspect of online learning. So I'm sure that would be useful. But then do you
Yeah.
feel that corporate techniques are a class unto themselves? They are so different and that you definitely need a corporate setup for them to be applicable? Or do you feel that the principles inherent in them are applicable to every profession?
Yeah. You absolutely nailed it. When it comes to learning, it's all the same. It's all the same. So if you're in a corporate, of course, you will have your HR department who will set out a training calendar and who will nominate you for programs. And here, it's all your initiative. So I get that. But in fact, I believe that because of that, it's even more important to do. So if somebody else is going to do for you, it becomes easier. But when you are a small law firm, or now I'm an independent professional, there's nobody pushing me, telling me, ye kar, nobody's telling me. So it's even more important for me to do it, right? And like I said, a lawyer like me as a professional, I don't have a product. What I have is my knowledge, and I have my skills, and I have my critical thinking. How can I keep developing that? So to me, it is whether it's a corporate or you're an individual, a lawyer. I've even seen my local kirana shop. A kirana shop, when the second generation son came and sat in the shop, suddenly now he had purchased a new technology to actually do all the billing, and everything is now happening on his iPad, which earlier his father would give small chittis, and now his entire inventory is managed through that. Anything, a big truck comes, he actually goes on his iPad and actually fills it up. Who is telling him? No, it's just the mindset saying that tomorrow got to be better than today. And let me tell you that some people say, I have 10 years experience, and I ask, or we ask, is it the same year that you have multiplied 10 times? Then it's not 10 years experience, it's 1 year experience. But if every year has been different, you've kept on experimenting with different things, employing new technologies, become better and better, then it's really a rich 10-year experience. So yeah, so the answer to that is that it's all in the mind, it's all in the mindset. It is difficult, but even more important for the profession. Look at doctors. The medical council has said that you need to, all doctors, every 5 years they have to earn, I think, 30 credit points in order to keep their certificates alive. Otherwise the certificates they can't practice medicine. Yeah. So all doctors I know, my sister is a doctor, so they go to conferences, they go to seminars, they collect their credit points and they put it in the system. So the medical profession has done it. So they've done it more. It comes as a policy and then people do it. But when there is no policy, then it's me. I just have to do it for myself. I owe it to myself. So that's my answer, Mihir. And I don't know if I've answered him, but that's the philosophy that I would suggest that one goes with.
All right, great. Thank you so much for answering that.
Yeah.
Mr. Ajit Korde has a question. Do you recommend taking a sabbatical for formal learning?
Mm, yeah. Okay. So I get this question a lot, saying, should you actually take a sabbatical of 1 year and 2 years? My answer to that is depends on what course you're doing, what is the purpose, what is the vision with which you're going for that program. I think having a lot of clarity on that as to by doing that where you're heading, that's important. Number one. Number two. So my answer is yes, it's important to take as long as that course is going to be really take you of like a leap forward. Secondly is I would just give it, I'll say that when you do it, a few tips to ensure that when you come back, you're not lost. Keep in touch, keep reading, keep your networks alive. If there are projects to do there, keep on, because if you're going to come back here, take projects so that you actually learn new things in your job here. Because I've seen people who go on a sabbatical, when they come back, they find it difficult again to settle back in. So to ensure that, so find the right course and ensure that you're not completely breaking away, and that you're keeping in touch with your with your old world, with your friends, and with your work setup, and keep sharing your learning with them. So I would say yes.
Thank you so much. We have one Mr. Arun Kumar. He is asking, as my understanding goes, blockchains are used for transactions, but how does legal fits into law? I believe what he's trying to ask is how does blockchain and the legal profession, what is the interplay between
Yeah.
them? I will
Yeah.
try to answer that. As Mr. Kumar, you
Sure.
have rightly said, blockchains is a way of tracking and conducting transactions. It has a specific trail that you can track it and probably properly analyze it, and that is the basis of blockchain. Cryptocurrency uses blockchain, and for example, if you know about IP, intellectual property lawyers, the regulations specify that you need to have a specific kind of education because of which you can understand patents and the science behind it. And that's why only if you have that kind of education will you be eligible to be registered as a patent lawyer, to be able to register patents on behalf of someone. So, to answer your question, how any technology fits into law, that's a different aspect. Somebody might use the blockchain technology to develop some software for the legal profession to be used in the courts or to be able to be used in our daily practice. That's a different issue. What the objective of bringing a blockchain in this conversation was that if you do not understand something, it would be difficult for you to argue on that in the court. If you do not have an understanding of, say, for example, accounting, and if you are faced with a case where a company has some problems in accounting or there has been a fraud, or, for example, there is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, they have disciplinary proceedings under the Act. Now, if you are to represent either the CA who has been accused of any professional misconduct, or if you're representing the complainant, you would need to understand accounting at least to a certain extent to be able to either defend the CA or prosecute the CA, whichever side you're on at that point of time. Of course, the committee, the disciplinary board, and the committee, they are experts over there. You may not be an expert. For example, even in the regular course of the courts rely on expert testimony. So you're not required to be an expert, but the objective of bringing in blockchain is that you should be at least aware of these technologies. And if you have a basic understanding, then I'm sure you would appreciate, Mr. Kumar, that your presentation of the case before the Honorable Court will be different. So I hope this answers your question. Mrs. Korde, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, so I will just say that blockchain is certainly technology. So it's all about organizing information, organizing, scanning, putting it together. It's all about that. So I'm not really an expert on blockchain, and I think Mihir has explained well. There is a just Google blockchain in law, and you will spend the whole day there. Yeah. So it is, and it's coming. And so the more we know about it, the better equipped we are, and yeah, we can serve our clients even better in a more effective manner.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Korde, for this really informative session. We have now come to an end. We had,
Thank
as
you.
discussed, we had settled on doing this for exactly an hour. So thank you so much for spending this
Yeah.
time with us and for answering the questions that people had. And I think I had prepared some other questions in my mind, but I think you preempted those questions and answered them before I could ask them. So again, I thank you so much for giving this valuable
Yeah.
time to us, and I hope that the viewers also learned a lot and enjoyed this session as much as I did. So thank you again so much for coming in, and I thank the viewers also. All right. Have a good day, everyone, and hope to see you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.